Hey everyone, and welcome to the Whistle Sports Women's World Cup analysis. I'm here with Ella Masser, who's in Houston, Lori Lindsay, who's actually joining us from Canada. She's been at some of the World Cup games recently, and Becca Moros, who's actually in the same apartment as me right now here in Kansas City, which is awesome. So we had a lot of awesome questions sent in with the hashtag WWC. Unfortunately, we could only pick a few to answer tonight. But first, before we get into those, we just want to go through each person and kind of talk briefly about how you've been watching the World Cup games and what your viewing experience has been like. So Ella, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mentioned this last time, but heading up to Edmonton to see him play in front of, I think it was almost 40,000 people, was pretty incredible. Even though there was a rain delay and we got hailed on and it was freezing cold, um, it was cool to just see how big and the hype that was going up in Canada because you don't really get to see everything that's going on when you're down here, but it was. I'm American, but even got a little bit emotional during the anthem, just seeing how many people singing one way and cheering them on. It was cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got your Canada shirt there to represent tonight again. Okay, Lori, what about you? What's your time been like in Canada?
Yeah, I've been a little bit back and forth. I was at the U.S. The first game against Australia in Winnipeg, which was obviously, I'm sure many of us have seen, an exciting match, and there's about 30,000 plus there. And then I was at the game versus Nigeria last night in Vancouver, which was amazing because it was 52,000 plus, I think, and it's the third most watched women's event or soccer game behind the '99 final and the 2011 World Cup final. So it's pretty spectacular, and it's just fun to see. I mean, how much soccer's grown, and Canada's putting on a spectacular event. So it's been fun
Are
to
you
be
going to be
live.
there this Sunday?
In Vancouver, no, I don't get back to Vancouver until Monday afternoon.
Oh man,
Are
that's
you
too
going to be there? I know I'm going to miss the Canada game. Are you going?
bad. Yep, I am.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll wear your
Well,
jersey. I have it in my closet, so I'll wear it. If you could autograph it, maybe Monday when you get there.
Perfect. I can do that.
okay, well, you guys are pretty lucky that you actually get to go to Canada, but I'll let Becca speak to how we've been watching the games since we've been here in Kansas City for the most part together, watching a lot of them.
Yeah, I actually caught the first game, the first U.S. game in Portland with Megan Rapinoe's sister, Rachel. So that was pretty cool. See that sister love getting excited when her sister scored. So that was super fun. But most of the games I've watched on the couch with Ya and various other teammates. That's kind of how I prefer to watch anyways. There's so many exciting things going on, and I feel like if I don't watch closely, somebody else is sort of doing something I wasn't expecting, or a team's playing better than I ever thought. So it's been pretty exciting just to take it all in.
Yeah, and seriously, thank goodness for DVR because I don't know why some of the group games before the third round were being played at the same time, which I don't think is usual for a big tournament. So we've been catching up on a bunch after the fact, but obviously seeing the scores as they happen. Okay, so we'll get into the questions. We had to kind of pick a few and consolidate, but again, thank you to everyone who sent us questions. We'll jump right in. The first question we have is which player's performance has impressed you the most? And I'll actually start this one off and then we'll jump to you, Ella. So I actually have two picks for this that just came to the top of my head immediately when I saw this question. The first was actually the first player I saw in the tournament that really caught my eye was number 11 for the Netherlands. I think you say her name, Lieke Martens. She scored a great goal. She cut the ball inside and bent it in the upper corner with her right foot early in the Netherlands' first game. And I think since that point, I kind of just had an eye on her. And I've seen her do a few things that I thought were really impressive. And the Netherlands are on to the next round, so I'll be looking definitely to see her as well as a bunch of her teammates that I thought have been pretty exciting. And my second one in this, Colombia, everyone's talking about Colombia, I know, but Colombia's number 16, Lady Andrade. I mean, she has some tricky skills, and I was kind of actually surprised. I had never seen her play before, and I've seen her do a few things that I definitely think are highlight worthy, so she's kind of on my radar now. And obviously they play the U.S. next, so we'll see how that works out with some pretty tough defending, but those two players definitely caught my eye. What about you, Ella?
Um, I have to say, looking over, especially now with the 16, for USA, like Julie Johnson playing against her, um, I think she's somebody that you got to go brass for brass. But I think she is having an exceptional World Cup. She's kind of like for me, like a Khadijah Buchanan. If you take her out right now, I think that there's a huge hole in defense. But I would have to say those two for me. It's just because I've been watching the defense more and more, and they just seem to be everywhere and clean up everything that people are trying to kind of exploit on each team. I mean, if you watched, again, the Canada game, Khadijah, if you take her out, then I think there's about 5 or 6 more shots on goal that could have been very dangerous plays. Um, and I think overall, I just think Australia. I mean, I think having like Simon come in, I mean, she's played in our league and stuff, and you see her strength here, but seeing her on that stage and her coming in, scoring those 2 goals, and then kind of creating the opportunity, I mean, that's a really, really good young kid coming up.
Yeah, well said. I like that you pointed out some defensive players because I think it's easy to, draw the attention to the attackers or people who are making the highlight reels, but those are 2 great defensive players as well who have impacted the tournament so far. Lori, how about you?
Yeah, this is a little bit difficult just because, as you guys mentioned, your preferred way to watch the games is on the couch, and I would agree with that as well. So it's been a little bit difficult for me to catch all the games because I've been flying during some of them or watching live during other ones as well. So, but the one thing I would say is it's funny that you mentioned Australia, Ella, because I was actually just going to mention the whole team. I've actually been really impressed with their entire team, and they're one of the teams that actually, well, first of all, I think their midfield has been the best midfield in the tournament so far. And then also, I think their team just seems to have a ton of passion and the most belief that I see out of any team. So I think they're kind of playing a little bit more beyond what a lot of people expected them to play, I think, or to finish second in our group. The group of death was pretty amazing, actually. And then I think it'll be interesting to piggyback off what you said as well. Yael is with the Colombia team will be the Colombia. I thought the Colombian goalkeeper has been impressive, but I think she picked up a yellow card, so that she's actually not going to be playing in the round of 16. Is that correct? Did she pick up a yellow card today? Did I read that?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that, but I didn't see that game today, so I could.
Yeah, she's out for the final or for next round.
But actually, she's kept them in some games, which has been impressive. So we'll see. But I guess there are 2 backup keepers play at some smaller colleges in the U.S. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And that's a pretty strong statement about Australia's midfield. I haven't seen them much, actually. They're one of the teams I have still on my DVR list. But I think that's definitely a midfield to watch out for. Then I'll definitely be watching.
Well,
Becca, what about
report
you?
back after you watch them.
Okay, I will report back to you, Lori.
Okay, sounds good.
How about you, Becca?
I also have a difficult time picking specific players that I enjoy. I was really impressed with Lika Martins also in their opening game, and some of the German offensive players as well. I know they weren't overly challenged in the first game, so probably their offense really outperformed everyone on the field. So it's easy to get excited about that. I really, a lot of the quality of play in general, just the quality of the ball control of players moving at high speeds and the interplay, the inner movement, the timing of runs, like the length of the runs, so people's initial starting positions. I've just been overall impressed with the improvement in soccer being played. And I think this next round will kind of be maybe where individual players jump out at me because they'll be having good games against good teams, and seeing top midfielders have to battle with other top midfielders and find out how good they really are, or top defenders facing the best forwards. I think that's going to be the moment for me where I really can see how good I think an individual player is. But overall, the quality of play and individual tactical and technical stuff has been really impressive.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's hard to tell sometimes in the group stages when the results are all over the place. It's hard to tell who's actually going to be impressive when it comes time to play an opponent that's of equal or even maybe a little bit better quality than the team that player's on. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how those individuals play out and the team competition, obviously. Okay, next question. This is a little bit on the same page, but we'll take it more to the teams and results. What has been the most surprising win, loss, or draw, or you can kind of talk to what group or team has surprised you the most. So we talked about that a little, but has there been a surprise in how results have turned out in your mind, Ella?
Yeah, I think Cameroon. I mean, I did not put them up in that upper quadrant with China and U.S. To getting second. I think that they've really impressed me, and I think at the reverse end, like I think the Swiss. I think I watched Bachmann play last year in Malmo. I mean, yeah, you've seen her play over in Sweden, and from her being in the WPS to then, I thought her improvement was in tenfolds. I mean, she was honestly one of the best players I've ever seen play, just with how she could interact. And now you see her in the Swiss game, and she's still very dangerous with her speed, and I think she has, Lisa Devana speed, but like very, very technical, which is hard, that combination. And I haven't thought that they've gotten the results that they've necessarily needed. Now, I'm biased, so I'm hoping that that stays the same. But anytime I think Swiss get on the field, it's going to be exciting soccer. And Cameroon with those two forwards, I think 17 and 7. It's been cool to see them kind of take their team on the back and really carry them.
Definitely, those are two teams I wouldn't have necessarily put in the top 16, but it's good for them that they're in there. I think I actually drew Cameroon in a little World Cup pool we have here at FC Kansas City, so I'm rooting for them kind of.
Lucky you.
I'm going to pass on this question.
Okay, sounds good. How about you then, Becca? Becca, can you hear me?
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I muted myself. I drew both South Korea and Colombia in our team draw, so I didn't expect to have two teams rocking out at this stage, but I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, no, honestly, there hasn't been a lot of teams have impressed me, but I don't know if there's one upset or anything like that that's really jumped out for me. I've been more surprised at some of the top teams coming out and not having good performances in their second games. That was a little bit more of a surprise to me, given that some of the top teams I thought looked really great in their first games, and then something kind of happened. But yeah, no, don't have a great answer for this one.
Yeah. I actually am really pleasantly surprised by China, to be honest. That's kind of a team I thought they'd be on the rise again. Kind of obviously we haven't really seen them be a top contender since the '99 World Cup. But to me, they look pretty good, and they had some great combination play, and I just could see them, if not this tournament, then maybe next World Cup being a real contender to get into those final four spots even maybe. And I know I talked a lot about Spain in our last little Google Hangout, and I'd been talking to so many people about how I thought Spain was going to do so well, and I was a little bit disappointed with them. I don't know what actually happened or if I just had a misconception, but I kind of thought Spain was going to maybe pleasantly surprise, and they didn't this tournament. So those were kind of my two that jumped out at me with that question. But we'll move on to the next. The next question is, what would you like to see from the U.S. moving forward? So a little closer to home with this question. Ella, do you want to start us off?
Sure. U.S. I don't know. I mean, speaking with like Carly a bit, they don't look like they are. I mean, to be frank, a team. Like I think there's so many incredible human beings. I think, again, in the World Cup, them and maybe Germany, they're the only teams that having 3 subs probably hurts them more than it helps, just because of the depth of their roster. I don't know. I think the midfield I think they need to go through the midfield more, and I think they need to play and combine. I think it's predictable that they get the ball and some certain players shoot. Instead of they're technical and they're smart enough tactically to break down, I think, any team. And I think they all got to find, again, what they're fighting for and find it to fight together. But then again, I mean, you can be arguing and say that, for example, Germany, if Germany gets it to the final, they're beating the number, they're going to beat Sweden, who's number 5 in the world. They're going to beat France, who's number 3 in the world. And then they're going to play U.S. in the semis, who's number 2 in the world, right? So again, if the U.S. makes it to the final, then they're going to have to earn their right, which they should anyways. So I'm just intrigued to see, what after Colombia, how they're going to do against China or Cameroon, and then again against Germany or France, who they're going to face in the semis or the quarters.
Absolutely. What do you think, Lori?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a little bit of a tricky question because, I mean, if I think all of it, the four of us could agree, we probably would like to see a little bit more interplay. I think a build-up, kind of small angles, a little bit more creativeness, whatever you want to define that as, and but just a little bit more combination play instead of just sometimes the long ball and hoping that it gets up top and we make something out of it or we get a flick. But at the same time, I mean, we're in the group of death and we pretty decisively won that group. So sometimes I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I want to. In my personal opinion, in soccer, I would like to see some more interplay, some combinations and stuff. But maybe sometimes that's not our strength or what we can beat some of these teams with. So it's a little bit tricky.
Yeah, it's a good
But
point. Good point. Becca, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Lori completely. The U.S. doesn't exactly play my style of soccer, so it's
Japan.
not it's not really an easy question just because I think that they rely on certain things that they shouldn't have to rely on because they're good enough players in a well-supported system and with plenty of time to train together and train in leagues and just have that consistent professional level. So I think part of it is just their style, and if they're going to win playing their style, I think they just need to be more decisive and possibly a little bit more ruthless, as Ella said. Be for the U.S. based on the way that they play, it's a mentality thing, or just feeling that freedom to just fight and compete and do what they do without trying to be something else or various things that we may not realize are contributing. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see them move the ball around. I would love to see if they did that, if they could then open up some of their advantages in athleticism, fitness, speed, and individual play. Their high-speed 1v1s are probably like the best in the world. So if they could move the ball a little faster and maybe isolate some people and then get their runners where they need them, then I don't think they're that far off from playing better, or at least playing the way they feel like they could play, and probably the way we all know that they can play. So I don't think they're far off, and they've had great competition. So as far as being ready for the next round, I think they're well prepared, and they're definitely right in the mix. And hopefully they'll come out in the end on top.
Yeah, it looks like Ella has dropped off the call. You clearly said something that really offended her, so she's out of here. Um, but no, I agree with you. Oh, Ella's back. Okay, we thought we offended
where'd
you,
you
Ella.
go?
Damn it, Becca. No.
Catch the snack.
Sorry.
Bye. No, but I agree with what all of you said, and I think that the thing about the U.S. team is that they show up in big moments. So I think definitely their best is yet to come, and I think that that will be brought out as the stakes get higher, the pressure's on, and the competition gets more difficult. I think we'll see some more exciting and more urgent play. And also I think this has been talked about a little bit in the media and on the commentary, but I think for me with the U.S., I guess I think that there are some players who are just not put in the role that best suits them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's almost like we have such versatile players in the U.S. and such talented individuals. It's almost like a spoil of riches in the sense that, yes, any player can almost play any spot in the field and do a good job. But I think where we see the greatness coming out is when players are really set up to succeed in their position that really highlights their strengths. So if that means a Lauren Cheney is sitting right underneath the forwards, or Carly Lloyd has more freedom to go forward and take those long range shots, they both do great at a regular two-person midfield, but that's when they're going to look really special and impress and do the things that we're used to seeing them do. So I think for me, that's a little bit of what I'd like to see, but again, that's the system, so I don't think it's going to change at this point. I do expect, though, that moving forward, the team will step up when pressure's on. We'll see some exciting play.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
next question.
I'm just going to say something about that. I think it's interesting with the U.S. as well because you could honestly make 2 or 3 changes, and it doesn't mean better players or not, just different players, and the whole outlook of the team would look completely different.
Yeah.
And whether that's shifting, like you said, the system we're playing, or even just the personnel, 2 or 3 players, you could have a whole different product out there.
For sure. I think that's a great point. It's those subtleties in a tournament like this that I think at the end of the day could win or lose games at a certain point in the tournament. But we'll see what happens with that, obviously. So next, this is an interesting question, actually. I really like this one. Which international that you've seen playing in the World Cup would you like to see come play with your team in NWSL? And I'm going to start off with this one because I really like this question. I was excited about this. I was like brainstorming, thinking really hard about who I wanted to come to FC Kansas City. And then in my mind, I was like thinking maybe this is a reality. Um, but I'd like to see Wendy Renard. And not to say we need another center back or anything, although I have been playing center back and I wouldn't mind if she came to replace me there. But I would be really interested to see, to play with her, play against her in training, and see how she'd do in this league. She's a player I really respect. I think she has obviously some wonderful tools, but I would like to see her, outside of the context that I've ever seen her before, which is pretty much just playing for France. What about you, Ella?
I'd have to go with another. Well, she plays in Lyon now. She plays for PSG, but Shirley Cruz, captain of Costa Rica. I saw her play when I was over there at PSG, and she was a player that immediately grabbed my attention. I thought she was Lyon's best player, and that was when they were on their 5-year run of winning, the cup or whatever over there. So I would like to see how she does, just to see the players combine off her and play and see how well because we're so athletic in our league, just to see a real footballer come in here and see what they could do.
Interesting. I like that one. What about you, Laurie? What do you think? On your NWSL team that you play for now.
Oh yeah, my NWSL team. Let's see. I'm going crazy because it's so late and I'm so tired. But what's Eugenie's last name on France, you guys? Like, and I don't remember. Yes, thank you. Yeah. I would love to see her actually in the States. And see what she would provide a team. I've actually been pretty impressed with her. She scored a good goal. I think it was like first or second game. And yeah, I think she has good skill and great athleticism. And since the 2011, I guess, World Cup, I think she's improved quite a bit actually, just with her overall game. So I'd like to see her.
I like her a lot as a player. Okay,
I'm
Becca.
just going to call her Eugenie from now on.
Okay, yeah, you just go with her first name. You know her on the first name. Becca, are you going to complete bringing the whole French national team to the U.S., or are you going with another?
How did you know that? You must be in my other conversations and when I'm watching games. Yeah, I want to see Nassib in the United States. I think there's so much talk about her. I think she's an elegant player. She's, crafty, tactical, technical, all these kinds of things that are pretty awesome, that we don't necessarily develop well in the U.S. yet. But at times, some of those players have had trouble performing in the U.S. League because of how the way we generally play here, it doesn't exactly fit. I have seen some of the best players I've ever played with not play that well in the U.S. But I think that she's missing something. There's like a piece of her game that's missing, and to elevate her really to the best number 10 in the world, I would love to see her try and compete with the kind of level of play that we have in the U.S. Because in the United States, every single game is rough and competitive, and you have deep rosters. Someone's going to come off the bench. You might not even have ever played against them or know that much about them, but they're gonna make you work. And I think that that's something that's missing from her game, and it would be very, very interesting, one, to see if the U.S. has developed enough to be able to have a player like that and have them perform well, and also, two, to see if she could hang and if it would take her game to another level.
Okay,
what would you do if she threw that ball at you like she did in that game?
I don't know. I've had multiple players do interesting things like that to me in games. I'm pretty sure I took you out and got a yellow card in the last game, so things happen.
Yeah, I had surgery on my thumb. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that's a threat.
But you weren't my same teammate. At least look at the competing part. I was joking with some of the French girls. I go, if my teammate threw the ball at my feet during that game, I think my first reaction would be pick it up and throw it right back at her.
Well, she's going to have to figure out how to make friends then, because Americans aren't that nice. They're not going to be okay with that. Let's see.
We have now posed a challenge to France. Send us all your players to send us out. It's official. The whistle sport. is calling all French players to NWSL. Okay, last question for this hangout, and I actually left this one to last on purpose because I think it's a really, really important question. And the question is, do you still think that the expansion to 24 teams is good? And this was written to us on Twitter, and it says, regarding Thailand and Ivory Coast games, I think it was written after each of their first games where they got blown out. And I thought this was a really interesting question and something important to speak to. So Ella, if you want to start us off with your opinion on this.
Oh my gosh, sorry. I think
You're so
You're a
popular.
hot mess.
somebody's calling me from the West Coast. Oh my god. Sorry. I don't know. I'm flustered. Does anybody else want to say?
Okay, we'll go with Laura. You deal with your phone call. Okay. Laura, you answer first.
Perfect. Yes, I still am happy that we have 24 teams. I think as long as, now that FIFA has been wiped out, but whoever comes in, as long as FIFA holds those federations accountable, because otherwise it's pointless. So if you have like the Thailand or Ivory Coast, like that was pointed out in this question, then FIFA needs to mandate that those federations are putting money in, letting these countries develop. Because otherwise they're going to keep coming back, qualify, and then just not improve in a year, and then it is pointless. But I do think they do need to get the exposure. I mean, I think it was Japan got blown out. I don't even remember what World Cup it was. One of the first two World Cups, though, and then they went on to be world champions last World Cup. So it is a process, but I mean, the federation definitely has to step up and put money into the team. And I think you could see that also with Nigeria. I mean, I said this in our first hangout, but I thought Nigeria is actually going to do better than I thought they would. But I was impressed with them for being in the group of death. In last night's game, watching them live, they're actually a really good team, and I think you give them a few more years, they'll be exciting to watch even more.
Yeah, part of a process, like you said, for sure. Okay, Ella, now that you've dealt with your phone calls, we're back to you.
About that. I don't know. I think I agree with Lori. I mean, I think we'll all probably have the same sentiments, but I think it's a process, and anytime you can say they got smoked 10-0 or whatever, but to have these girls, I mean, some of them have never even been out of their country. Some of them all have jobs, and this is a stage that they've never been on before. So I think this is stuff that they tell their kids, and that's the importance of all of this, right? I mean, a lot of the women here don't play for the money. We play because we love it, and for the fact that they get to do this and experience this. And like Lori said, I mean, it's been 24 years now. Japan is one of the top teams in the world. I think if the funding can come and that kind of stuff, I think it's kind of endless. And Costa Rica has a good, decent men's program. Thailand's getting better. All these, Cameroon, Ivory Coast has a great men's program. You just hope that they can actually catch on and get treated how they deserve.
Yeah, well said. Becca, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the teams that have improved in the last decade are a testament to the fact that other teams should have an opportunity. So I agree completely with Lori. If the federations are held accountable for developing their players, there's absolutely no reason that these teams shouldn't be involved. I also think as just a fan, it's pretty fun to watch those games. Like I feel bad for the teams where the women are really getting beaten up and they're not in a battle, they're just getting hammered. But at the same time, like I'm enjoying watching the quality of the game from the standpoint of the winning team. And so, as a fan, I'm fully entertained. And if that's, how it works to keep the tournament more competitive or get more teams in and allow countries to develop their players and have a chance to play on a world stage and be a part of it, then I'm all for it. It's the World Cup. Like as many teams in the world as can perform and makes it a good tournament, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, often people complain, non-soccer viewers who watch soccer say, oh, there aren't enough goals. Well, now we have goals. I mean, you're not going to complain if you see some brilliant finishes, no matter who it's against, I think. And for me, I'm just looking at it, looking at the Final 16, several of the teams that are in their first World Cup are in the round of 16 now. So to me, that's a strong statement, and I feel pretty strongly about this. When I was seeing a lot of commentary during those early games, when Thailand and Ivory Coast got blown out. And I was actually watching Ivory Coast against Germany and thinking, you know what? I think Ivory Coast is not that bad at all. Germany's clinical. They're great. They scored a lot of goals, but I saw some moments where I thought Ivory Coast has something to offer and could be developed for the future. And then you have Thailand. You know, Thailand scored goals. They won a game. I think that's, I mean, if I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure they won a game, right? But I mean, am I wrong about that? Okay, well, if I'm wrong, but I think that the point I want to make is that I think that we have to start somewhere, like you guys said, and hopefully funding will come after. But even so, I think there's been some exciting soccer, and those countries did the work to qualify for the tournament, and I think that everybody had a respectable performance. So it's really important to me that 24 teams are now involved and that the women's game is developing, and eventually, you know, that will come back around in terms of the funding. Okay, so that was our last question. Thank you guys for sharing your expertise and analysis. We'll try to do our next hangout either sometime right before the final game or maybe right after. So please continue to send us questions to the hashtag WHISTLEWWC, and hopefully we'll get to more of your questions next time. But we had some excellent questions submitted. Unfortunately, we could only pick a few. But thank you, everyone, for participating, and we'll see you next time.